Just confirming that everyone can see the slideshow that's live as well.
Yeah, no dramas.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
amazing. Well, thanks for coming down, guys. My name is Reese Gabriel. I'm the football development manager here at Hills Football. So I'm in charge of everything football development, whether that's with our players in our development programs that we run, or our coach development and coach education programs that we run as well, and working closely with our clubs. So it's great to see some of our club members that are down here as well. And yeah, once again, a massive thank you for coming down. The purpose of tonight is obviously talking about a massive in our associations, so from under eights to under 11s. Yeah, we're super excited for the season to start. So we're going to talk about some rules and some tips for you guys as coaches or committee members as well. We've got Alex from the referee committee that's down here as well. That's going to be talking about referee stuff. Yeah, if you have any questions at any stage, feel free to add it into the chat as well. And I'll be monitoring that as we go. But yeah, thanks for taking the time, guys. You're more than welcome to take yourself off mute to ask questions as well. But we do ask while we are presenting if you can stay on mute. But if it is a question, you're more than welcome to jump off mute and ask. But yeah, thanks everyone. So we might start with the presentation. So like I said, what we're going to talk about is what exactly is MiniRoos and MiniTildas football and the benefits of playing small-sided football and the different game formats that we do have, tips for you guys as coaches, some behavior expectations and additional information for these age groups as well. So I guess to start off with, so what is MiniRoos football and MiniTildas football? So pretty much it's the first exposure of football to players and coaches as well. So MiniRoos football encompasses under sixes to under 11s. We know a lot of under sixes are in-house in a lot of our clubs. I understand we have a lot of North Rocks people that are in the meeting tonight as well. Typically, a lot of our clubs do in-house from under sixes and under sevens with some traveling teams as well. And then once they get to under eights, that's when they go into traveling as well. So we'll talk about the different age groups and the rules and how they're different as well. But pretty much players take part in small-sided games with modified fields and playing numbers. And we'll talk about the different playing numbers for the age groups as well. And then as they move down the age groups, the field gets bigger and we have more players that join as well. So yeah, pretty much our MiniRoos is from under sixes to under 11s. And then we'll talk about, yeah, so pretty much why we do play small-sided football. I know back in the day for me, it was a little bit different when I was under nines. I was playing on a full-size field, which is crazy to think about it for me now. And the reason why we have moved to smaller size fields is for that player engagement and getting them to have more touches on the ball, which is why the field size is smaller and it's more of an introduction. So it's laid as they move along the age groups as well. So from our under sixes, we'll talk about the sizes and how many numbers there are on the field, but it's smaller games and then they get more touches on the ball. And then we see the positive effects on that. They're more involved in the game, they're getting more touches, they're having more fun, and there's high development as well because the more they get on the ball, the more they're going to improve as players as well. And then, yeah, like I said, it's a constructed introduction to football. And it's a layering for when they get ready to join full size field in under 11s on the mixed side and under 13s on the mixed side and under 14s on the girls only side as well. So that layering as they get older to get onto the big field. So yeah, the smaller the field, the more touches they get, the more decisions they make and the better they get as players as well. And yeah, so that's the reason why we do play small-sided football and the benefits of it as well. In terms of the different age groups, so we'll start with our under sixes and sevens. Like I mentioned, a lot of clubs do this in-house with a lot of clubs doing traveling as well. So it's a bit of a mix within our association. But there's no points in table. There's no points and finals in our sixes. In all of our MiniRoos and MiniTildas age groups, there's no finals. So for the sixes and sevens, they start with a 4v4 where there's no goalkeepers. So we have how big the field is. So it's 30 meters by 20. We do have an exclusion zone. So what an exclusion zone means is when there's a goal kick, the players that can join, sorry, the opposition team are only allowed to go into the exclusion zone once the team with the ball controls it. So we'll talk about exclusion zones throughout, and I know Alex will talk about that in his presentation as well. Yeah, but so it's from the halfway line, and then there's no penalty area, no offsides. However, Alex will talk about the offside rule a little bit later as well. The goals are a little bit smaller and they use size 3 balls. And then it's the playing time of 20 minutes with a half time break of 5 minutes. And then they're refereed by a game leader as well. So for our sixes and sevens, that's the introduction. It's normally our first time when our players are starting to play football. And yeah, we'll talk about some other coaching tips for later as well, but it's 4v4 to start off with. And then that's when we then transition into our under eights and nines, which is where we go into 7v7. So when we move into our under eights and nines, that's when goalkeepers are introduced and there is a penalty area as well. So the field is a little bit bigger and that's when our play numbers increase as well. So we then move into 7v7s. And like I mentioned, the field is a little bit bigger and the exclusion zone just moves a little bit. So now it's halfway between the halfway line and the goal line as well. Once again, there are no offsides. However, Alex will talk about it in his presentation, like I said. But the goals are a little bit bigger now that we have a goalkeeper as well. They still use size 3 balls. It's two 20-minute halves. And then we have the 5-minute half-time break. However, from the game leaders, we now move into where we have instructing referees as well. So rather than just the game leader, yeah, we move into IRs in that age group. So it's 7v7, which is a step up from our 4v4s. If we then move into our under 10s and 11s, the field is even bigger. So it's another step up, like we talked about, that layering through the age group and the phases as well. So it now moves into a 9v9. There's still a goalkeeper. The penalty area is a little bit bigger. The field is bigger. The exclusion zone is now 15 meters from the goal line. And yeah, the goal is a little bit bigger. They now move to a size 4 ball. The playing time is a little bit longer as well. So it's 25-minute halves. And then once again, we have the instructing referees as well. So that's pretty much a breakdown of the rules in terms of the sixes and sevens, under eights and nines, and the under 10s and 11s. Does anybody have any questions? Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to add it into the chat. I'll be monitoring that as we go as well. But that's pretty much a breakdown. So we have the different age groups and how we move up.
Yeah, Reese, Tony here, if you've got a question. Yeah, you might get into it later on in the presentation, but over the years we see some variations across different clubs for field sizes and goal sizes and things like that. Are we going to touch on that later on tonight?
We probably won't, Tony. That's something that we're working on at the moment with our clubs directly as well. We did an audit where we went through all the clubs and got what their field sizes was compared to what's actually in the handbooks as well, and something that we're going to be checking and going through for the season as well. I know that's something Nicole's done for the past few months. But yes, these are the rules, and we understand at the moment different clubs are doing different things, which is where we're going to start touching back to these handbooks and showing what the right format is for these age groups as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. I think we'll touch base on that as a separate issue when we have our club meeting with you,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And we'll go across that. Next question. Sorry to hog this.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
The different suggested playing formats for the different age groups. So for the seven side, what do you recommend? Or do you recommend 3 and 3 with one goalkeeper, or do you recommend, you know, 2 2
In terms of
2?
formation,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I guess it depends on what players you do have, and we'll talk about some coaching tips a little bit later as well, and how we encourage not to actually be position specific in these age groups. So we actually encourage you to rotate the positions and the formations that you do use throughout the season as well. So I guess it completely depends on what works for you as a coach.
yeah,
I know Football Australia have some guidelines about formations for these age groups as well. In a 9v9, I believe they encourage you to use a 3-2-3 with a goalkeeper as well. And then for a seven-a-side, I believe it's maybe a 2-3-1. I'll have to double check that, but it's something building into the old curriculum was building into a 4-3-3. But I guess it's just once again working out what works for you as a coach. But we would encourage you to actually try and use formations throughout the year as well.
No, no, that's cool. It's just for myself and also for a lot of the coaches as they're stepping up through the different age
Yep.
groups. It'd be good to have a bit of a guide, I think,
Yep.
um, of what formations to consider or to look at the different options.
Yeah, of
So
course.
just
Yep.
just so you think the 7v7 is 2-3-1
Yep.
and the 9v9 you think is, what did you say, 3-3-2?
3-2-3.
3-2-3.
So three defenders, so like a centre back and a left and right back with two
Yeah,
midfielders, and
yeah.
then a front three as well.
Okay.
We use lots of different formations as well with our programs that we do. So for example, for a 7v7, you could change to a 3-2-1 for a few weeks. But like I mentioned, I would actually encourage you to change the formation on a cycle. So like
Yeah.
6 weeks, you're using one formation. And then for another 6 weeks, you're using a different formation. So the kids are learning how to be adaptable and playing in different systems, which will actually help them for when they're older as well.
Cool. Thanks very much, Reece.
That's okay. Are there any other questions in terms of the format for the age groups? No, that's okay. All right. So we'll talk about some tips now. And I guess the main thing that we really want to encourage our member clubs and their mindset to have, and what we're trying to hold as an association in everything that we're doing in terms of Coach Ed, is having the mindset of how does your coaching encourage your players to come back next week, next year, and instill a lifelong love for the sport as well. So really having that inclusive environment. So like I mentioned before, a big tip that we're going to encourage coaches within this age group is rotating positions is a big one. Obviously trying to have as much equal game time as possible as well. So yeah, this is mostly game day stuff, but trying different formations, playing them in different positions, because that will actually benefit them in their football development as well, for when they're older. Obviously, we talk about rotating goalkeepers as well, but just giving everyone a turn in different positions, and then explaining what that position is trying to do within the game as well, and really having that positive state of mind with your coaching to really encourage your players to give it their all with the position they're playing and on game day as well. Because, like we did mention, um, in these MiniRoos age groups, there is no results that are taken, or there's no ladder. So we do encourage obviously having that winning mindset, but it is not, the development is number one within these age groups and the retention of our players. And we want them coming back next week and next year and really loving this sport. So they're playing when they're older as well, and they can continue with their football development journey. But yeah, really shifting that mindset of it's not all about the winning in this age group, but how can we get them to keep coming back and having that love for football as well. Um, so yeah, like I said, rotating positions is a big one. Having equal game time is a big one as well. But yeah, just really trying to be as positive as you can with as a coach, to get people coming back and making it the highlight for their week as well. Does anybody have any questions or anything to ask about that? No? Okay, so we'll move on. The next part, obviously, this is This is a quote from Nick Levitt, and it's the best coach in grassroots sport is nothing to do with who wins the most. It's the one who can make the biggest difference to young people, change their lives, teaches skills they'll need for life, and develops better people. It's about using the sport to help the next generation. And I guess that's our major roles as coaches and people within players in this age group. This is the first time they're playing football or where they're learning it. And we really want to have that positive impact on the players that we do have in our program. So really honing in on that as a coach, rather than just the winning, but it's that development and that retention of our players and the environment that we set as well, which is super important in these age groups. All right, so we might move on to Alex, who's going to be talking about the referees now.
Hello, everyone. My name's Alex. I'm the instruction referee coordinator at Hills Football. So I take care of all of the referees that do the eights, nines, tens, and elevens. So the first thing is, who are the referees? Well, they're quite young. Some of them are pretty close to the age of the players. They can start as young as 11. Now, we don't referee the sixes and sevens like Reese touched on. That's the game leaders. So that's not really what we cover. But the eights, nines, tens, and elevens, our goal is to cover as many of those fixtures as we can. Now, it's important just to remember that the referees are also learning. They're very early in their journey. So as the players are learning to play, they're learning to referee. I like to think of it as like they become second coaches on the field as well, because as the players are learning the rules, the referees can sort of guide them on that journey. And that's why they're called instructional referees, because they do have, I guess, a little bit more knowledge in the laws than the players might, and that can sort of help them along the way. Because the coach can help them a lot off the field, but on the field, there's only so much they can shout out from the sideline. Also, it's really good for the players to get used to having a referee because as you sort of climb the ladder of football, you're not going to get rid of the referee. They're there to stay. So, getting used to having someone that you're going to need to interact with who isn't maybe from your team is, I guess, a super important skill. Like the referee's main job is to facilitate a fair, entertaining, and safe contest. That's the number one thing as well. Safety at this age group is so important for the referees because well, there isn't a competition and these kids are young, so it's super important for them that we keep them safe. In terms of the second thing, if I feel the referee could use some coaching, what should I do? The guidance that we've been given is we'd like you to speak to your team coaches who can then pass it on to the committee or the club referee coordinator. So each club has a club referee coordinator who sort of oversees the instruction referees at their club. The idea being that they take care of the little day-to-day things, and if it is a bigger issue, they can pass it on to me and I can take it on as an association-wide thing. But we ask that parents don't approach the referees directly, as this is inappropriate. They're quite young. You wouldn't approach a player of another team, so we ask you wouldn't approach the referees. Um, in the third point, we just want everyone to be respectful. Allow everyone to develop. Like I said, the referees are learning just as much as the players. It's unity that we grow. You don't want players to hate the referees and the players don't become referees because oftentimes our best referees are the players that couldn't make it for whatever reason, but they understand the game. And I know as a player, our biggest frustration is when the ref doesn't get the game, but they know the rules. So it's just that respect that I guess we need to push. Now, there's a couple of rules that I've been asked to talk about. The first thing is equipment. Um, Quite simply, equipment is something that we change a lot of the rules for the IRs, but equipment is something that as an association we can't really waive on because that's a safety thing. And like I said at the start, safety is one of our biggest things that we need to protect. So we've seen a lot of issues with piercings, glasses, and religious jewelry. It's important to remember that you can't play with piercings, even if it's taped. Taped jewelry is still considered jewelry, and you can't play with it. So if you coach a team and you think the parents might have their kids get their ears pierced, please ask them to pierce it outside of the season. Because I know if you get a new piercing, you can't take it off for a couple of weeks. Give them the time for it to heal because they can't play with those new piercings. Also, it is a very difficult topic sometimes, but you can't play with any sort of religious jewelry. I know it can be challenging at times, but the reality is it's unsafe and the laws say it. All the professional players do it, all the NPL players, all the local players have to do it as well. And last thing for that is the glasses. Now, glasses can be very dangerous for a couple of reasons. Metal frames can easily snap, glass shatters. So they do need to conform to the standards of Hills football. Now there is a document that should be sent out to all the clubs, but real quick, it's sort of just the glasses need to be made of plastic and polycarbonate. They have to be shatterproof, they can't be sharp, and they have to be soft and safe. That's sort of the main thing. The recommendation is that players get a certificate from their optometrist. That way, it's just no issues and it's nice and seamless. But for the most part, it's not 100% necessary, but it just makes everyone's life so much easier. So yeah, if you can get that certificate for anyone who has glasses on your team, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, in terms of a couple of the other rules, exclusion zone is pretty simple. Like Reese touched on before, it's just roughly a quarter of the length of the field. It's just to hold those players back so they can develop and learn to play out from the back. Offside, there's no offside with a massive asterisk on it. So it's a very long explanation, but the short answer is there is no offside, but if teams or players abuse it, the referees have the ability to call an indirect free kick against them. Now, the directive that every referee's been given is the same, and it's on the first instance and the second instance, and even the third, potentially, we let it go. We try to manage it as best as we can. But if after talking to the player, talking to the coach, and trying our best, there's just nothing we can do, and the team continues to do it, then we punish them. The idea being that we ideally want no offsides, but some teams unfortunately aren't following the spirit of the game and are playing a deliberate tactic to play the teams, like play players in an offside position. So unfortunately, we've had to add this little caveat in. Now it's not something that I want to see often. I think last year of the referees I spoke to, most of them called it less than 3, 4 times a season. But if it does need to happen, it will happen, and that's sort of the offside thing that we've come across. Uh, and real quick, in terms of the variation, because I'll just speak on that because Tony mentioned it. From a refereeing standpoint, we're doing our best to try and apply things as universally as possible. At the moment, all but 2 clubs come to us for courses, which we deliver the same course every week, and we do our best to get around to the fields. So in previous years, the IR coordinator has gone maybe 1 club a week, but it's been quite challenging. So we haven't really covered a lot of our bases. But this year, we've put in a new initiative for more referees to get out, like referee coaches and audit the referees in the clubs. Now, this is not so much like a association thing, but more like a referee specific thing to try and get a little bit more consistency through our referees. And like I said, if there is any issues or you're seeing variation specific to a club, feel free to contact your club referee coordinator. They're there to help, and I'm more than happy for them to pass it on to me, and let's see what we can do. Because at the end of the day, this variation isn't really helping anyone. And most of the time, it's not intentional, it's just a bit of confusion. So if we can get that sorted, that's better for everyone. That's pretty much all from me. Does anybody have any questions regarding the refereeing standpoint? No? Amazing. Back to you, Reese.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. No, that was really good and good explaining on the offsides as well. And I guess our jobs is to start to prepare them for when they go to big fields as well, right? So the kids aren't going to learn a lot if there's going to be someone that's standing in a blatant offside position for the whole game. So we really want to encourage them to play football as much as possible. And we talk about our exclusion zones as well. We want to try and teach them to play out from the back and to try and find space away from the defenders rather than just kicking a long ball or not really thinking about what they're doing as well and just kicking it. So that's the development that we talk about and why we have exclusion zones. And obviously, if they're the blatant offside, the IR will talk to them as well. But yeah, cool. Go the
One,
next.
sorry,
Yep.
Alex,
Yep.
one question for you. Just to manage all of our expectations with I suppose in particular the under 8s and under 9s, when a player is pulled up for doing something incorrect, is it a reasonable expectation that the referee would explain to the player what they did incorrect before they said, take the throw it again or take the kick again or something like that?
Yeah, so so every restart is a little bit different. But we do ask the referees, even for things like fouls and stuff, explain to the participant what they've done wrong. because we know, like I said at the start, they're learning just as we are. So we're getting it clarified, but for throw-ins, they do get a second chance. And if you incorrectly take a goal kick, it just gets retaken. That's not a problem. The idea is we'd rather the game flow and explain what's wrong as opposed to just calling it and no one knows what happens. So our goal is to explain as much as we can to the players to try and get a better atmosphere for everyone.
Cool. Thanks, Alex.
Not a problem.
Cool. And I guess one point that Alex did talk about on his slide, which I might go back quickly as well, is the third dot point. So what's your role as a coach to ensure the best possible player experience on game day? We encourage you guys to go up to the IRs actually before the game and introduce yourselves and make sure they feel confident and welcome as well. And yeah, just have a chat to them. We encourage you to go up to the opposition as well and introduce yourself, give them a handshake, ask them how the season's going so far, and really creating that positive environment for our players and for the opposition as well, to ensure that everybody's going to have a good time. And obviously, when the ball gets rolling, it might turn a little bit competitive, but yeah, really making sure that it's a positive environment right from the start as well. So introducing yourself to the IRs and introducing yourself to the opposition team as well is something that we highly encourage. Cool. So if we do go to the next slide, I know we'll talk about it, and I know clubs talk directly to parents and to you guys in your coaches and managers meetings as well. But I guess the role that the parent does play is to encourage. I think far too many times we do hear a lot of instructional stuff on the sideline as well, and obviously the players don't really learn a lot from that as well. So yeah, we encourage you to have a chat to your parents before the season does start about what you want them to be saying from the sideline, and whether that's we want to try and stop the abuse towards referees is the big thing. And obviously coaching from the sideline, we want to try and leave that to the coach as well. So we encourage you to have a meeting and get together with your parents and set expectations as well. So trying to minimize that coaching from the sideline and minimizing the abuse. So really, like I said, the massive thing with MiniRoos and MiniTildas is creating a positive environment. So yeah, have that discussion with your parents before the season starts. And then hopefully that positive environment will try and reduce poor sideline behavior as well. And obviously, sometimes you can't control it. So if something does happen, what we do encourage you is to find one of the ground officials that are there from your club. Each venue, or even if it's an opposition club, will have a ground official that will be there in a yellow vest or whatever vest they might be wearing. They'll be there, and if you need them to support you, go and visit them as well. And they should be monitoring the game. So they're there to support you. And then in terms, if you want to report an issue, that's where you go directly to your club as well. So whether that's about an opposition coach, whether that might be abusing the referee or your team or the other team, make sure we get the ground official to try and help. Like Alex said, talk to the club referee coordinator, and you guys at your clubs have a club coach coordinator as well, or your age coordinators that will be there to support you as well, and should be contactable to support you guys if something does happen. And I guess the quote that's there, that's in bold as well, the standard that you walk past is the standard you accept. We do encourage you guys, if you see misbehavior, to report it to your club so then we can action it as an association as well. But yeah, that's definitely something that we do encourage you to do. And yeah, building on that positive environment that we're trying to create as an association and with our clubs as well. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Oh, good. All right. In terms of other additional information after this meeting, probably tomorrow, I'll send through all of the handbooks that we do have online for these age groups as well. Now is a time where there's so many resources that are available out there for our coaches. It's just making sure that you guys are aware of it as well. So we have a load of resources that are on our website, whether that's our MiniRoos and MiniTildas handbooks that will go through the outline of those rules that we talked about if you do forget, or if you want some clarification on things. So you guys have my email now that I sent through on this link as well. But we're here to support as an association with you guys, and there's lots of people in clubs that are there to support you as well and can give you feedback and provide some instructions if you're struggling with something as well. There's so many people that are out there to support you guys. So don't feel like a lot of the time in clubs, sometimes our coaches are the last person to step back. So everybody else moves back and you're just standing there. But we want to support you guys in what you're trying to do within your club, and really empower you to make sure that there's a positive environment that you set within your team. So we do have, yeah, you can contact your club for support. We do have a range of coaching courses that are available on our website at the moment as well. So we have a MiniRoos courses that will be available, and we have foundation of football courses that will be available as well. So a MiniRoos course is typically for coaches that are looking for age groups between the 5 and 8, and that's a free course, and it's just a 3 hours on a one night or a morning or however that might look. And then a foundation of football is a paid course, so that's $100 that goes over 9 hours as well. But that's the next step up, and that's for under nines to under 15s in terms of the age groups that you are working with. And we're going to be delivering a lot of community coaching initiatives throughout the year as well. So we have the Hills Football Grassroots Festival as well. If you want to see some coaches in actions, particularly looking at these age groups as well, which also has 1 hour of CPD as well. That carries across if you do have a coaching qualification at the moment and you need to revalidate what you do have. So that's next Saturday on the 22nd of March, and that's at Bella Vista Public School. And we heavily encourage you guys to come down and see some sessions in action as well. And if you have any questions about tonight and you want to say it face to face, we'll be down there as well. And then we have our Hills Way training programs as well. So if you do train during the week, and you're looking for some training programs, that's all online. So session plans are there. It's all on our website. So you can go find it. That's there as well. And then obviously reach out if you have any additional questions. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. And once again, we thank you for your time for coming down. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up?
Sorry, Reese, I do. I don't know if this is the forum for it either, but
Yeah.
Exclusion zones, like
Yeah.
for parents and versus coaches,
Sorry, what was the last point, David?
like exclusion zones, like are they mandatory? Like I know you mentioned
Yes.
exclusion zones,
Yeah.
like on
So-
the penalty area and whatnot, but
Yeah, so we can go back. It has it for each age group as well. It's in the table. So exclusion zones are mandatory for each game, and it's when it's out for a goal kick. Alex, you might be able to.
no, sorry, I'm more talking parents versus coaches and managers.
It means technical areas and like
Technical
parents.
areas. I guess once again that
I'm
depends.
talking spectators versus like managers and coaches. You know what I mean?
As in where they can stand on game day.
Yes.
Well, I guess once again that depends on your club. To be honest, I don't know the exact rules about that, so I would have to clarify that, David, if you do need more information. I think that depends on the club and where you are as well. But I believe all of that, once again, is on our website and it's in the bylaws as well. But yeah, I can do some research and let you know, David. Cool. Are there any other questions? No? All right, cool. Well, yeah, once again, thanks for coming down, everyone. We hope to see you in and around on the grounds. I know I'm going to be down on the ground as much as I can around in our clubs for this season. So if you do need any support or you need any resources, including session plans, or you want some support about formations or anything that you might have questions about, just let us know. You're not alone as a coach. We're all here to support you. But really excited for the season to start. You have my email, so just let me know. So thanks once again, everyone, for coming down. Cool. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, and we'll hopefully see you around in the season.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really good.
Thanks, Reese.
Thanks, Reese. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, guys.